Okay, so welcome to episode 52 of the Freedom Hustles podcast. My name's John Banks. I'm with Andy Lehman from the freedomskillsacademy.com. So tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about websites and the art of selling websites and flipping websites and so on and so forth. So, how you doing, Andy? You keeping well?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. It's starting to warm up nicely here in Portugal. Not so much in the inside, but I mean, we were sat outside having our dinner, which, when you consider it's the 1st of February, is not something I should imagine you'll be doing in the UK
No,
without a
not for
big,
another
big
few months.
coat or, yeah.
Well, flipping that round, actually, you're sat outside now eating your dinner. I've just ordered an internal heater for my office. So there's the contrast.
Well, to be fair, Portuguese houses are ridiculously cold, so I could do with the heater here as well.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great being warm outside, but as a person who works inside 8 hours, 9 hours a day in the office or remotely, I need a warm house. So I'm actually missing that of the UK. Really, I'm missing central heating.
Central
But
heating.
anyway,
Anyway,
yeah.
so flipping it back then. So we're going to be talking flipping it back. Do you see what I did there? A little
Just
segue.
crowbar it in there like a
See?
TV presenter.
Um, so we're just sort of natural at this now. That was completely
Bit
accidental. But
Alan
anyway,
Partridge.
yeah, it was. Um, so anyway, we're going to be talking about websites, and like in that case, then so flipping them, or you know, when you price one up, and in my case, I build them and then I sell them on. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I guess we'll start off with the kind of entry level stuff, which is the sort of like, you know, how much is a website worth? I mean, I guess it's a bit of a, you know, the it's a how long is a piece of string type question, isn't it? Really, you can go to sort of like the basic. I like to start off whenever I'm pricing one up. For example, if I'm doing a client build, I like the kind of default standardized ones. You know, like what you would see your basic sort of 5 page one, and then maybe your terms and conditions. So probably a 7 page. You know what I mean? And we're talking like home page, about, services, contact page, you know, maybe a blog, and then just the terms and conditions. These are the sort of entry level ones, which, to be fair, most businesses, that's all they need, right? Most bricks and mortar businesses, if all they want to do is kind of have a website that basically showcases their services, that's probably fine. Um,
Yeah.
and that range, you know, and we've talked about this a bit before, haven't we? This is something that, you know, you can learn yourself.
Hmm.
You can become to a sufficient level, which I think anyway is perfectly acceptable for you to build and sell these. Um, and there's no reason why you can't charge, you know, sort of upwards of 500 quid all the way up to sort of like a couple of grand for something like that.
Hmm.
Um, because again, it depends a little bit about the sector of the business.
Yeah.
We've worked on client sites which, you know, we'll do like the entry level stuff, like the local plasterer, all the way up to things like that. Remember that massive um, air conditioning company that won a 45 grand contract from some of the SEO work that we've done. So in that case, spending for them to spend 2 or 3 grand on a website is absolutely nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like you said, it's one of those how long's a piece of string thing. It's you a website price is not necessarily just the actual cost of the website. It's often um what you save them in time and energy. I mean, I always remember you telling me about you did a website a few years ago for a driving instructor. Um, so if you take him as an example, it could have took him probably weeks, possibly months in his evenings to try and figure out how to to build a website. So you'd be learning it, you're trying to put
Mm.
everything together, and then it can take even more weeks to sort of get it built to a point, and it takes all that time away from him. When, to be fair, he could have been doing some extra driving lessons to earn the money to pay you,
Mm.
to pay somebody else to do it, and get it done within like a few days or even a week. And if I remember rightly, once you got your website up for him, did he not get a booking for a crash course, which was like £2,000 or something, which was basically paid for the work of the website within a week? Now, if he'd
Yeah.
done it himself, he could have been like 3 or 4 weeks past that, he could have missed that booking, or he could have, sometimes it's best to pay someone to get it done quickly because you get it to market quicker. And yeah, so I mean, so the actual value of the website is not necessarily just buying the widget. You're paying for getting something done quicker and earning you money faster.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is exactly what happened. I think it went live. He shared it around a bit. Obviously, he done his promotions his end, and people cottoned on to it, and he got on there, and he got, I think that was why, something like a crash course booking for like £1,500, which is more than what I charged him. So we more than covered that anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, as you said just then, it's difficult to price them up, but you're not only paying for the niceties and what it looks like, and the actual job. Like you say, you're paying for what it could save you and actually potentially make you over the long term, over the years, which you've got it. I see it all the time, that the amount of, like, I've done sites for loads of little, local trades and things like that. They don't even entertain the thought of having a website. And then
Yeah.
I'll sort of sell it to them, and I'll say that, you really should consider it. And they'll put it on there. And then, once you've sort of listed it and it's on Google and it's in, like the Google local business directory and everything like that. So it appears on like Google Maps and stuff like this. We're not talking like seriously advanced SEO stuff. We're just talking about the basics, which is get a website up and running, get it on Google local business, and then, you know, put it on your company van, hand it on your business card, share it around, blah blah. And I see it all the time. The amount I might see that client a couple of months later, and he'll say, "Oh, I got a job the other day, and I'm interested now." I ask them where they got it from, and a couple of them have said, "Oh, found it on your website." So it's already paid for itself. Do you know what I mean? That one
Yeah.
job is all, and then they're going to get countless, potentially thousands and thousands of pounds worth of work over the next, the longevity of the site. So, it's a no-brainer, really.
It is, and most people are sort of like, it's like £500 for a website. How much? I'm not paying that. And I don't think they truly understand. Like you say,
No.
is they're easy to build. Once you actually know how to build a WordPress website, they are easy. So
Yeah.
by all means, go and build it yourself if you want to save £500. But to be fair, by the time they finished, it would have always it's a false economy. It would have been a lot easier for them just to
Mm.
go and do a few extra hours overtime if they can do it, or like the driving instructor do a few extra lessons, leave somebody else to build it so it gets done quicker, you pay for it faster, and then you find the extra work. I mean, it's I mean, as you know, everybody's got a mobile phone now, a smartphone in their hands, and it's not like the old days where you used to get your local trade magazine in the post and you have to
Yeah.
look through it and then go to your laptop. Now somebody can be sat in a pub talking to you, and you say, "Oh, that John Banks, the bricklayer," and you go, "Oh,
Mm.
I'll just go and have a look, see if he's got a website." That type it up, boosh pops up, and it's one of those things that, like you say, a lot of companies, small trades people, plumbers, plasterers, bricklayers, bakeries, they don't think that they need a website. Over here in Portugal, it's even worse. I mean,
Yeah, I can imagine.
anybody who's Portuguese, if anybody's listening in Portugal, there's a lot of businesses that don't have websites, which you could probably cash in on once you show them how
Mm.
basically beneficial it is to have a website. I think there's a big market here for people for building small business websites, most
Yeah.
definitely.
Mm. I mean, I just want to touch on a point you made there. I mean, like you say, it is there is a bit of a learning curve to it, but once you kind of grasp the basics, I mean, me and you, we've often talked about this before, and I don't want to sort of go off on a tangent, but we've spoken a lot about like templates in the past, and if people are considering this, as again, we're sort of, it is very much in line with everything we talk about, and that is that web design itself is a freedom skill. It is something that you can pick up and you can do it from anywhere. Once you've got that contact, that connection, sorry, that internet connection, you can do this anywhere. I've taken my laptop out before. Built, I've done client builds in coffee shops, and you know what I mean. It does give you that freedom, but yeah, there is a bit of a learning curve to it. But I think once
Yeah.
you get to a certain level, and you've got yourself a little sort of toolbox of familiar plugins and familiar templates and stuff like this, then obviously the whole thing becomes a hell of a lot easier. I mean, I should point out though, I still see some absolute garbage, and I mean
Yeah.
absolute garbage. And I have had clients that have tried to do stuff themselves, and then they sort of look at me and go, "What do you think? Can you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you're better off just not even bothering." Do you know what I mean? Just let someone do it all for you. There's no
Yeah.
point spending the next 3 months tweaking it and changing it, and just scrap it all off, get someone to do it all for you, and do it again. Um, and that's skill sets. Do you know what I mean? People are what they
Mm.
are, and that's fine. Not everyone's, got a sort of design eye and everything like that, and that's fine. That's the way it is. Because when you do, I know it is still websites ish. In actual fact, it is a very, very big part of what we do. But because we talked about templates and that,
Yeah.
because you've whenever you do, because you do a lot of our sort of landing pages and copywriting and like the opt-in forms and everything like that. And that's exactly the way we do it, isn't it? You've literally got a template of, the three kind of key pages that we need. And then when
Yeah.
we need to, if we're doing a new product, we want to test something out, they're already there. It's just a case of, what I mean, I can just, clone these and go again.
It's very rare that we build anything brand new from scratch. We
Yeah.
modify what exists. You just, like you say, you just clone the page and then move things around and change.
Mm.
I mean, you add and take, but I couldn't tell you the last time I built anything from scratch.
Yeah.
Um, just
Exactly.
going back to quickly what you said as well, something else. If anybody's listening to this, if anybody's interested in the Ben Fogel programs, New Lives in the Wild, it's a few years old now and he's no longer there. But Ben visited a guy. He bought an island off the coast of South America. He bought an island. Can't remember which country it was, Venezuela, probably something like that. He bought an island. It had no mains power, but he used to fund his lifestyle building websites. So he used to have
Wow.
he'd have a laptop, and it was either like a wind generator or solar panel. And every now and again, he would get himself connected to the internet, probably through satellite internet.
Mm.
But he would build websites for other people for money. I believe he's now since sold the island and moved on. I think he's now with his girlfriend. He's
Mm.
basically house sitting and traveling the world doing the same sort of thing. His name was Ian, if I remember rightly. He was also famous for when he got divorced, he sold his life on eBay before traveling. But yeah, Ben Fogel went to see him, and that was how he funded himself living on this
Mm.
remote island off the coast of South America, was building websites.
Yeah.
So that
I
just
couldn't believe
tells
it.
you
Mm.
what freedom it gives you.
Mm. Absolutely. Um, yeah, completely agree. So I mean, so there is another side to this sort of podcast episode,
Yeah,
and that is the kind of like, well, there's another sort of two angles which we're going to talk about now. Number one is, I guess, which is the sort of the flipping element of it.
yeah,
Um, so I've just spoken about, or I mentioned at the start of the show, and we've just talked about the building and selling, so that client end face. So like, you get someone that, they drop an inquiry and they want a website built, fine, you build that, you sell it to them. Okay, they are the end user.
yeah,
And the whole purpose of that was to build something for that person based on their kind of like input and what they wanted doing and everything like that. It's absolutely fine. The other option, which I will admit now on this, I haven't actually done, but we have dabbled in the idea a few times. You've, I think, got close a couple of times, um, but you've also obviously built and sold loads of websites through like the company and that you're with. And this is more sort of like the flipping stuff in it. So basically buying
yeah,
something, listing it on, you know, websites such as flipper.com, or I don't know what the other ones are. You'll know a bit more about this, with the goal, the end goal being that you're basically just going to sell that on to someone else, almost like a quick flip sort of thing. You want to kind of
yeah. Right. Basically, there's a few points I'd like to put here. There's two types. One I'd not even thought about until sort of last year, and that was building starter websites.
Mhm.
And there's a woman who I'm following. There's quite a few people actually do this, and they build starter websites. So that's basically like a business off the shelf sort of thing, business in a box. There are people who invest in websites or who want to build a website and an online business, and they will basically happily pay between $250 and probably $500 to buy a website. The website doesn't have to be used. We're not talking about the established websites. We'll talk about that more in a minute.
Yeah.
But these are basically people who will build a website, and it depends if they use AI writing, which I'm not particularly fond of. And there's many reasons why, because obviously you want to have something a bit more personal. But they claim that they can build a website within a day, maybe 2 days, and they sell these for like $250 to sort of $500. And there's people who basically sit at home and they're making 6 figures a year building these starter websites, which they stick on Motion Interest, Flipper.com, probably even GoDaddy. There's others like Niche Investor and places like that, and they stick these websites on there and they sell them to people who are looking. Because if you wanted to buy an established website, so a website that's making profit, so just quickly bear with me. If we look at a sort of here's an educational site, 260 plus printables. I don't know how much he's making per month, but he's up for sale for $159,000. Okay. There's another website here. I'm looking at a couple on a website. One's in the beauty and self-care, so that's earning $4,674 a month. So that sounds good. You buy a website at that price, but that's going to cost you $85,000. So the more a website is established and the more it's making, the more you can sell it for.
Yeah.
So there's people who want to start an online business but can't afford $85,000. They probably can't even afford $2,000.
Yeah.
But they want something. They want something to start with. They don't want to spend all the time building. They want something that they've got as a finished product that they can just basically get and then start saying, hey, come over to this website. And so these people are building these websites and selling them for like $200, $300, $400, $500. And they're making quite good money out of it because basically, like, I mean, you think about it, if you can make 2 websites a week at $500,
yeah, that's good.
It's not a bad wage, is it?
No.
Now, there's people who are doing I've often thought about these starter websites. In fact, I've actually got a couple that I'm working on at the moment. But I like to. I'm trying to approach it slightly differently, so that we actually create a product with the product itself. So it's different to just creating like a niche website where people can put Amazon ads or Google ads on it to try and make revenue. I like the idea of creating something that's a subscription business or has got an ebook that is unique to that. So when you go and actually sell it, not only is it worth basically it's worth more. It's got more potential. You build an email list and you've got but they've got a product to buy. So they're buying a license for the product and it's unique. So they're actually getting something for their money that they can start selling there and then. So I do love these ideas of the starter sites. I mean, like I said, these people are doing it. They're not filling it full of thousands of articles. They're not filling it full of thousands of pages. They just, I suppose it's like building, building a warehouse. You know, you build the warehouse and then you basically rent it to sell or sell it to somebody who wants to put in their engineering firm. You just supply them with the property to get started with.
Yeah.
So that was the first point that I found interesting, starter websites. And as you know, with WordPress and templates, once you get sort of a fair basic bit of knowledge, you know what you're doing, you can knock them up quite quickly, can't you?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's quite a decent one. And I completely understand that. You know, I completely understand that. There are stuff that I hate doing. When we do, well, running an online business is not easy. We always say that this is not easy what we're doing. Run it, and there's stuff that I hate all the time. You know, we got like a tech guy that we use. You know, for stuff that just like, oh, do you know what? I can't. I'm not doing this. I haven't got the time. Well, we're better off spending our time doing this, that, and the other. So I completely get that. You know, for someone that wants to start a business up. I don't know. Let's say that some people, it's spontaneous as well, isn't it? They could be looking through that marketplace, and there could be something on there like I mean, I don't know. I'm just off the top of my head, I don't know, like a candle website or something like that, and they could look at that and go, do you know what? Actually, yeah, I'm quite interested in that. I could give that a go. You know, I make my own stuff. I could have a go at doing that. Well, you know, I'm happy to. I know some good sources where I can get cheap things like that, and then they might just go, bang. Do you know what? I'm going to buy it. And that's where it starts. Do you know what I mean? I can remember years and years and years ago. I can remember, and I mean like pre my sort of internet sort of days, if you like. I remember seeing these kind of like startup sites around then. You know, that it would be branded as sort of like a business in a box, but you wouldn't have like the sort of monthly earnings or anything like that. It would quite often just be a website. And they'd often say like, you know, the logo's designed for you and you know what I mean, things like that. And that would be like a big selling point. Like you wouldn't, this is
Mm,
for like Canva and easy, you know, the fact that there was a logo was even a big thing. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And I completely get it. Some people just got no in. Like there are a lot of very, very, very successful digital marketers that do zero, and I mean zero, of the technical stuff. They won't touch building a website. They won't do any. In fact,
yeah.
we know several, right? And they won't get involved. They're not going to be opening WordPress up and building landing pages and doing JavaScript. They're not going to be doing any of that.
No, no. There's we know quite a few
Yeah,
who are basically. I mean, it's a successful business generally. Is like a property developer.
yeah,
They don't do the plastering or the electrics or the bricklaying or the joining themselves. They have other people doing it.
mm,
But yeah, so these starter websites can be quite profitable for the right people, and people want to buy them. But then this is interesting. One of the fastest ways to become a millionaire. I read this. I was trying to just trying to find the information. I wrote it down somewhere in an article a while back. One of the fastest ways to become a millionaire, one of the quickest ways to become a millionaire, is actually to build a website or websites because of the return on excuse me, the return on investment if it grows quite well.
mm,
So it was, I think they did it. Yeah, it was compared to sticking. I think it was compared to sticking $1,000 into a bank account at something like 5% each month.
mm,
It would take you X amount of years to become a millionaire.
mm.
Whereas if you were to spend $1,000 a month on a website, you could the chances of becoming a millionaire was basically like you probably get there
Mm.
in a quarter of the time, something really ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking now at, like I say, this website. I have to keep flicking back to it. So there's a couple here that I mentioned. Um, Here's one. It's called Frugal Living Blog. So it's about frugal. So it's teaching people about saving money. I don't know how old the website is. I'll see if I can have a quick look. But this is up for 799,000 US dollars for
Jesus
sale.
Christ.
Uh,
Jesus
it's
Christ.
actually making $25,900 a month. It's
Mm.
got a 165K email list and there's 500,000 people on the socials. Now, sometimes these websites can only be like 5 or 10 years old. So if you build up a big website, you imagine working for 5 to 10 years on this website and now you're
Yeah.
selling it for
Yeah.
800,000.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's incredible. Mm.
It is. I mean, it's incredible. And there's another one I'm looking at now, which is only earning $4,715 a month. This is a tourism blog around Colorado. That's up for sale for 200,000, and the money it's making is from ad revenue, affiliate links, and sponsored posts.
Mm.
So when you actually build a website and spend your time, like you say, you probably get someone who does the techie side, and you get a writer or you ever you invest in that. It's actually probably going to earn you more money than sticking it into putting $1,000 into a bank account at 5% each month.
Oh, more than
And
that. Yeah.
it
Well,
was
number one, you don't get 5% in a bank anyway. Jeez.
no, no.
Yeah.
So they kind of worked it out that it was actually one of the quickest ways to become a millionaire. Now, obviously, with these websites, you're probably looking at sort of a 5 year or 10 year, which is something that I think people need to think about because a lot of websites, a lot of online businesses, or a lot of people, they get sold the dream and they want to come and suddenly,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, is make it fast. And you are making it fast with this, but
Yeah.
compared to sort of 50 years working
Exactly.
in a
People forget
factory,
like 5 to 10 years is fast. In a career
it
to get
is.
that sort of money, that is good going, isn't
Yeah,
it? You know what I mean? Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but so yeah, so I mean, I think the way a website is, if it's earning say $1,000 a month, I think you can basically sell it for. I think the average is sort of 12 to 24 months of the average. So
Wow.
basically, so
Yeah.
if it's making $1,000 a month, you're looking at should be able to sell it for at least 12 grand, if not
Double that, I reckon. I mean,
double that.
yeah, I agree. I've got a couple of them calculations in front of me now. This is obviously Google as of
Yeah,
this article's from the 15th of May. Okay, so a while back, but this one here says actually at the time of this post, a typical website sells for 30 to 45 times the monthly net profit.
Right, so that's increased a lot
So
since
that,
I last looked.
yeah, so that, what you say, it's huge. You know, it's big business now. And I think if it's consistently doing it, obviously, then you can go for the top end.
You generally have to do an average of 3 months. So,
Right. Okay. Yeah.
you when you're selling it, they'll look at the traffic stats, and as long as you've earned, if you're saying it's earning 1,000 a month, if it's earned $1,000 a month for the last 3 months in a row, then technically you can then
Yeah.
say that's what it's earning, and that's what you can still, like you say, sell it for like 30 times.
Mm.
I mean, 24. Yeah,
But it's
20.
still
See, 12 or
incredible.
24
Yeah.
was the average a few years ago, but
Yeah.
now
It's still
30 to
amazing.
40.
Mm. That's amazing, isn't it? Like you say, you never get that return. There aren't that many products where you get that level of return. Um, and like we said, that's going to be a lot of work. You're not going to get to that overnight. But I think the key is, like you say, consistency. If you set yourself like that frugal living, for example, I've
Yeah.
not seen that blog, but that would have been a lot of people. Well, maybe not a lot of people, but that would have been a good team of people for quite a number of years to establish that, to get it to that level. You know, wouldn't it? That's unlikely. That's one dude on his own. I wouldn't have thought anyway. Um, but no, brilliant. And like you say, it's up for nearly £1 million.
Well,
Viral Nova,
basically,
one of the classic ones we talked about years ago, which was just literally, not satirical, but the sort of new
entertainment.
entertainment news and just sort of jumping on trends, all about trends,
Mhm.
scouring Twitter, TikTok wasn't even born then. And they were the first of a kind really to do the sort of, the sort of quick news. People didn't care that it was loaded with ads because people knew that that was what they were getting. And
Mhm.
I can't remember what that sold for. That was
I can.
stupid money, wasn't it?
It was $100 million.
100 million. Yeah,
Yeah, and this is a guy, Scott Delaney, I think his name was,
yeah.
and he basically locked himself away in his room and worked sort of 12 to 16 hours. He was scouring the internet for viral, interesting stories
Mm,
from Imgur and whatever was popular at the time. And then I believe he went on to hire possibly two, maybe three outsourced workers. These weren't employees, so he would get other people to do some articles,
mm.
and they just churned it out. And I believe he sold it for $100 million. And I don't think the website was anything like 2, possibly 3 years old. You know, he creamed the internet with it.
Yeah. Oh, that was
That
huge. Yeah.
frugal lifestyle, which I was just talking about, is went live in 2017.
Wow. So that's six and a bit years old. That's amazing. Yeah.
And it's up for sale for 799,000 US dollars. Whether it sells for that or not, I don't know, because
Oh
it
yeah,
might go down.
they've asked for that. Yeah. I
But
mean,
it's like
good luck
it
to them. Mm.
depends. Someone might, you might get into a bidding war. Something you might get a couple of people interested, and you.
They won't be so frugal once that sale goes through, will they? Probably buy a yacht.
Well, they might treat themselves to one bottle of champagne for that,
Yeah, yeah.
that
Shared
sale.
between 10.
But
Yeah.
yeah. But going back to the starter website, something I did forget about is that everything, as we've often discussed, is about when you're doing something online, it's the angle that you come in. And one of the things that I've often thought about, because now we live in a digital age, everything is so much easier, is that if you're going to build a starter website to sell, one of the big selling points, because you said about how it had a logo, was like a big, huge selling point back in them days.
Yeah.
You could soon knock up a PDF, 4-page, 5-page PDF document, or you could go to Screencast-O-Matic, whatever it's called now,
Mm,
ScreenPal, and record a video showing you how you use the website. So you could do like a business plan. So,
mm.
and it's you just what could have been a $250 dollar website to start a business off a shelf. You could knock it up to 500, because basically not only are you getting the website now, you're actually getting like a detailed plan of how to use the website, how to create the post, how to share it.
Yeah.
So they get a website, they get a product, and they get a plan. You can, everything is so easily doable. Like you say, you can knock things up in Canva. You've got your graphics and your
Mm.
templates, and
Yeah, it's
it's
all going that way. Absolutely.
so it's a unique selling point. But I mean, yeah, you can. I've got a couple on the go, and I'm willing to see how it goes because I mean, there is people I'm watching these people making
Mhm.
money just knocking out basically like 3, 4, 5 page websites.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I see it all the time. And
Mm,
again, I mean, we've mentioned this a load of times on the pod, and that is that, you know, you only you we always assume that people know how to do this stuff, and then secondary, which we've touched upon quite a bit on this episode, is that they even want to do this stuff. Do you know what
yeah,
I mean? Half of the time, either they don't know how to do it, and the other time is even if they do know how to do it, they don't want to do it because they're better at
yeah.
doing other stuff. So
Well,
for
it's
them to go and buy something is perfectly reasonable in their eyes.
well, we were talking about this the other day, and we'll no doubt talk about this again in future podcasts. Because I mean, I love the story, but it was a time when you was on about having an office in your garden, and
Yeah,
someone said to you, "Oh, well, you can save the money, you can build it yourself," and you were like,
yeah,
"Why do I want to build it
yeah,
myself?"
absolutely. I remember that. It was a bloke at work, and he was like, don't get me wrong, he's a great guy. But I was looking at these sort of garden offices, and he was like, "Oh no, you don't bother buying one of them. You just build it yourself." Sort of as if it was like putting a jigsaw together. And I was like, "Well, no, there's no way. I'm not. No way. That isn't my skill set at all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you've said, it would take me months. I'd have to learn loads of stuff, get all the materials delivered, and order everything myself, and it would just be an absolute pain. You know, that with all the other stress and strains of daily life going on, you might save money in the long run because you would, obviously, you'd save the labor charge and that. But my logic is not, I'll just do it myself. My logic would be, I'd build a few websites or sell some more digital products or, you know what I mean? Just up my game a little bit and then pay for
yeah.
it.
Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, if you land a website job which is like, a couple of thousand, it's probably far easier for you to do that and then knock it off the price of somebody else doing that while they're outside in the wind and the rain.
Mm,
We're trying to put this thing together. You're sat inside with a nice mug of tea next to your brand new heater, putting this website together. It's easier for you.
mm.
It's more cost effective and it's a lot more. Like I say, you might save a bit of time, but generally in the whole, no, because it would have taken you probably 3 times as long as a tradesman.
Yeah,
So you wouldn't have got in there, and over that period of time, you'd have probably built several websites that's paid for it all. It's
yeah,
just
exactly. Mm,
and that's how it always makes me laugh. These people who say you should save things, and if you're not careful. I remember many years ago, slightly going off topic, when I was doing up my house back in the UK many years ago, we ripped out the old copper um, water tank, and someone said, "You want to save that because it could be worth a bit."
yeah,
So I did, and it got moved around the building site. It was in the way, so it got moved from here, and it got moved from there, and it moved from here. Then eventually, I put it in the van, and then I took it down to the scrappy, and they gave me a fiver, which would have bought my dinner. And I worked out that the amount of time I spent moving this copper tank around the property while I was working, if I had just put it in the skip and then popped out to someone's house on Saturday and hung a couple of doors in
you'd
the
have,
same amount of time,
you'd have
I would have been
saved.
like
Yeah.
50 odd quid better off.
The amount of time you moved it around was probably a couple of hours worth. Yeah.
It was like, oh, this bloody thing's in the way. We get it shifted over here. And then now, well, I wanted to be over there. And so I had to move it. And by the time you finish with it, it's like, I would have just been better actually skipping it and gone doing an hour's
Yeah.
work at someone's house.
People have that approach though, don't they, with stuff? They do tend to have that. They fall into that trap of
Mm,
save money at all costs, even on businesses. Whereas in the end, it's not always like that. Do you know what I mean? It largely depends on what your skill set is. Do you know what I mean? If you're
yeah.
good at doing other stuff, then do the other stuff, and then get someone else to do the stuff you don't want to do. So you
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. I mean, that's a whole podcast in itself. I mean, we've
yeah,
talked
yeah,
about outsourcing.
mm,
It makes more sense for you to do an hour's work at £24 an hour than do the cleaning when you can pay someone else to do that for £12 an hour. You might as well do the work, have
yeah.
£12 profit, and
Mm,
have
mm.
someone else do the work for you. It's just, yeah, very few people think like that.
Okay, well, I think that's been a good little chat. Covered a few points
Mm,
there. Um, talked about obviously building and selling websites. I think that's a great entry sort of side hustle for a lot of people. I know we've talked about that before. It's definitely not for everyone. I understand that. And there is some skills to it, but you can get yourself to a fairly decent level, I think, and so that you are able to then sell them on. The other one we covered is obviously things like buying and flipping them on. So the likes of, flipper.com, and we're talking the way more established stuff. So again, probably thinking a bit more long game. So that's the sort of like, put some drive and commitment in, spend a lot of time on it, give it a few years at least, see what you get at a sort of monthly revenue return. And then, at the time of this podcast, at the time of recording, you are looking at potentially 30 times you could sell that for in future. And then the last one, which is one that you touched upon, which is obviously these kind of like starter flipper sort of websites, they're kind of like business in a box, business ready, everything's done. And in your case, you actually sort of leveled it up a little bit. Things like adding a product, adding some videos, maybe even having like a subscription element to it or something like that. And those could be all like, sort of quick flips. People that are looking into getting into a business, they don't really want to mess around with all the hassle.
Like buying a franchise.
Yeah, exactly that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Mm.
And yeah. So I mean, I think it's been a good chat. Anything sort of further from you to add before we?
No, I think that's everything. It's just like from depends which side of the fence you are. Like I say, it's a great way to make money if you're interested in building websites. There's different ways, but if you just want to have an online business and get started, and you don't want to necessarily get yourself stuck in the mire of trying to build a website, go and buy one. Go and have a look, see what there is, and buy something, and then you can start working with it.
Absolutely. Okay. Thanks very much for listening. I've been John Banks from Freedom Skills Academy.
I'm Andy Lehman, also from Freedom Skills Academy. We'll speak to you again in the next podcast, whatever number that is.
Yes. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Bye-bye.